All right, everybody, welcome to Armor of Truth Live number 375. Welcome back to the show. Let me go ahead and remind you folks, greetings, there we are. For all of you who've been supporting us for a long time here, you keep up with us daily, you know we run into problems on the platform every now and then. Well, we've got the monetization back, so just thought to let you know we've got a little bit of a goal set for today, 5 super chats. And then we'll respond to all those. We'll respond to them anyway. But we've set a goal for 5 today to welcome it back. Now let's jump right into the topic that we have today, which is free speech. Should Trump deport Mahmoud Khalil? This is going to be a Christian response too, because that's who we are, and this is one of those issues. It's certainly a moral issue, and everybody's got an opinion on it. Let's go ahead and welcome, first of all, to the show, though, the lovely Summer. Summer, are you there?
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday.
There she is. And this is, by the way, let's jump over here. Let me go over here to the article and show you. This is article that Summer posted earlier today. There it is. Beware. Mahmoud Khalil is a fabricated free speech crisis. And the reason we're saying that is because Trump deporting Khalil is perfectly legal, and it's not a matter of free speech. It's a matter of national security. So is there anything you want to tell the folks before we embark on making this argument?
I think that by the time people get to the end of the show with us, they'll understand exactly why we are particularly well equipped to discuss this issue, because digging into this situation, it goes to the highest levels of corruption and how our country has been captured and how we are in the middle of a cultural revolution. So I just think, hang on, because there's a lot of stuff that we have to present to you today, and I think you'll find it super interesting.
So hold on tight with all your might, because we'll be rocking like this for the rest of the night.
Beep, beep.
Thank you. All right. Well, here's the tweet from Donald Trump. This is what really got it all going earlier this week. Trump says, following my previously signed executive orders, ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it. Many are not students, they're paid agitators. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. If you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you're not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. All right, not subtle, right? And so one main point there that we'd really like to point out is this part where he said, give me just a moment here. I've got to make a little adjustment on our screen. But it's the part where he mentions you're not welcome here. Now, that sounds, well, that's mean. It sounds mean, to say that. Well, no, that's in the law right here where he says, I don't know if you can get if my cursor's not showing up there. But he says here, many are not students. They're paid agitators. Yeah, we've got evidence of that. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers. They're that too. They fit that description. He says, if you support terrorism, including violence, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests. That's part of the argument as to why this is not a free speech matter. It's being framed in the mainstream media as Donald Trump is a dictator and he's violating the free speech, the First Amendment rights of Mahmoud Khalil. by the time we get through this, and this is not going to be a long one, we want to get in here and make this argument so you can understand it. And by the time we're finished, you're going to understand why this is not a free speech issue at all. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's go over here to the article, because the first thing we want to do is tell you who Mahmoud Khalil is. And then we'll do that with Summers' article. By the way, you need to know this. When they arrested Khalil, right, they want you to think that this is just, he's a student. He's just a harmless, innocent student. You know, he's here on he's a visitor in our country, and he's just a student. And, well, this is not really the case. As soon as he was arrested, he had, well, at least 15 attorneys. He had probably more than 15 attorneys. Some say 16. Some say he had 19. Some say now he has over 20 attorneys working on his behalf. Now, come on, folks. Yeah. Freshman at Harvard on the highway is not going to have that.
Can I just jump in? Because what you said there, it's accurate that, you know, they're also framing it as, you know, he's a green card holder. He's a legal resident green card holder. So that's part of the issue too. Just to throw that out there.
And we're going to explain what that means and what his citizenship, he's not a citizen. We're going to explain what his status here is. Now, the fact that he had all these attorneys immediately is a big giveaway as to who this guy really is. So the article starts off here. Former Columbia graduate student Mahmoud Khalil is a Syrian-born green card recipient. He served as one of the ringleaders of the post-October 7th riots at Columbia University and functioned as the lead negotiator for the student group known as Columbia United Apartheid Divest, right there. CUAD. Now, we're going to call this group from now on, we're going to call them Quad, all right, just in the interest of brevity. Columbia United Apartheid Divest. We're going to call them Quad, all right? They are one of the primary agents of chaos during last spring's violent riots on the campus of Columbia. All right? It says here also that we'll get to this. The court filings show that Khalil received his green card just 5 months ago. Right? Long after they had, the Quad had wreaked havoc in New York City. And it was just 11 days after Trump's election. The reason that's significant is because he was fast-tracked. It really looks like someone was looking out for him. Someone in high places was getting him this status as quickly as possible because they realized that Donald Trump was going to be coming after these folks. And he should. All right, so let's move on now. We want to find out a little bit more about who is Quad. Who is the CUAD? Well, it starts out this way. I'll show you where this comes from. This is the Columbia Spectator. This is Columbia's website. It's their newspaper, I guess you could say. And on the Quad website, on their part of the website, the Columbia University Apartheid Divest, who we are. Who is this group? They say our values here. We believe in liberation. All systems of oppression are interlinked. The fates of peoples in Palestine, Kurdistan, Sudan, Congo, Armenia, Ireland, Puerto Rico, all of these and other colonized bodies are interconnected. We're committed to creating multi-generational intersectional. There's an important word, folks. Intersectional. That's your first cue as to who this group is. Intersectional. This is the language of cultural Marxism. An accessible space dedicated to fighting for abolition, transnational feminism, right? Whatever that is, anti-capitalism, and decolonization, and also combating anti-blackness, queerphobia, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. Interesting that they're combating anti-Semitism here when it seems like that's their number one target. Anyway, we keep.
What about anti-Christian phobia as well? Where's that?
Yeah, you won't find that anywhere. We keep each other safe. We do not believe that prisons, police profit over people, militarism, war, colonialism, or imperialism will keep us safe. We reject the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency's weaponizing of the United States racist immigration laws to prevent our international comrades, ding, 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 our international comrades and peers from speaking up. We reject the violence of the Israel Defense Forces trained police industrial complex that chokes our communities and disproportionately enacts brutality against people of color. We believe that true collective safety will only arise when we divest. That means to stop supporting, to stop monetarily supporting, or to stop supporting. When we divest,
degrowth.
Right. When we divest from death-making institutions and invest in life-affirming institutions. And this is interesting, too, because in this new language of democracy, in the Marxist lexicon, democracy doesn't mean that the people are sovereign. It means that institutions are sovereign.
Right. It's the consensus of institutions versus what it used to be, which is the consensus of individuals.
Right. Yeah. The consent of the governed, and now it's a consensus of institutions. Exactly right. When everyone has access to clean air, clean water, food, housing, education, health care, freedom of movement, and dignity, and there can be no exceptions. We believe in the right of self-determination, land back, and the right of return from Palestine to Turtle Island. That's a little more detailed. When we believe in solidarity and the power of relationship building. We believe in collectivism. We commit to actively refuting elitism and hierarchy in our work. We're part of a movement, a larger collective. Okay? Now, you can see that we're not reactionary but proactive. Right? So they're going to come at you first. We are, in the words of Mary Hooks, willing and ready to be transformed in service of the work. Let me bump back over here, because this was the one that most people have been passing around. We are Westerners fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. We stand in full solidarity with every movement for liberation in the global South. Our intifada, all right, so now that's a revolution, is an internationalist one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people, except for a couple. We reject every genocidal eugenicist regime that seeks to undermine the personhood of the colonized. If you know who Frantz Fanon is, and we've introduced that name to you here on this channel, Summer has actually. This is the language of decolonialization, of Frantz Fanon. Anyway, they continue here. As the fascism ingrained in the American consciousness becomes ever more explicit and irrefutable, we seek community and instruction from militants in the global South. That would mean militants from dictatorships in developing countries who have been on the front line. Yeah, well, Hamas, yeah, and it could be Hamas. That could be cartels. It could be cartels in Central and South America. Anyway, those who have been on the front lines in the fight against tyranny and domination, which undergird the imperialist world order. And so that comes from here, right here from their website. I think some of that has been taken down now, but this is what it used to say. It used to have all of that on there. So anyway, the point here is we're not dealing with the student council. Okay, actually I found this too. This is this was from the hard copy version, their newspaper. So you can see that they've put the same message out in the newspapers. as well. Same message. The oppressor seeks to compromise our thoabit by funding unprincipled individuals or normalizers who infiltrate our circles and blur our vision for justice towards accepting and normalizing our oppressor. The definition of normalization, according to this group, that would be to validate the Zionist colony's existence by endorsing or collaborating with an individual, group, or entity or ideology. Oops. Messed up. Or ideology that represents any form of Israeli aspirations or sentiments. All right, so this group is not actually for liberating all peoples. Let's okay, so that sets us up to who we're actually dealing with here. Let's jump back into the article now and show you the argument for why this is exactly why this is why Mahmoud Khalil should be deported and anyone like him should be deported. Now it starts out this way. The American, I'll just read you what Summers written in an article here. The American globalist controlled news media is once again fabricating a free speech crisis, this time concerning Mahmoud Khalil by deliberately shaping the narrative, casting Khalil as a simple green card holder, just someone who's advocating for Palestinian rights. And we can stop right here. And Summer, we can go ahead at this point and explain that when it gets down to it, when it gets down to that, I'm not against Israel. I'm not against Palestinians. I'm not against Israelis or Palestinians. There are a lot of Christians in both of those places, and we don't want to see anybody bombed out of existence. I mean, isn't that right, Summer? That's something that we see here. That's kind of like a dialectic or a paradigm that's presented. Like you're either on this side or that one.
Yes, exactly. So definitely that needs to be said. And there's an oversimplification that he's simply somebody who's just pro-Palestinian. He's a pro-Palestinian activist. That's how they're framing this. And that's not, in fact, what he stands for. That's not exactly what it's about. So you're going to find out as we go on.
All right. The reality as the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has determined that Khalil poses a national security threat due to his support for Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization. I don't think anyone can make any argument against the fact that they are certainly a terrorist. They're certainly foreign, and they're certainly a terrorist organization.
And also, we're going to show you as well where part of the process of getting a green card, when you fill out the application, there's a lot of weird things around his green card status, like how he got to get it so quickly. Yeah, we're going to go through all that, but just to let you guys know where we're headed. Yeah.
So, I'll just jump in on that point because basically what we're trying to explain to you is that this person should be deported, not for anything. He should be deported for what for leading these riots, but he should not have been allowed in the first place because he lied, and it had to be obvious. He lied on his application, his application for his green card. We'll show you those. We'll show you what that application looks like in a minute and why he would have had to have lied. But now the globalist media machine wants you to believe that this is about Trump suppressing free speech and being a dictator, right? Yawn. This is it's a dangerous propaganda campaign, right? It's designed to distract from the real issue, and that is Khalil's involvement with those that have openly called for the collapse of Western civilization. In fact, he is supportive of those who would like to see us. I have to remember we're on YouTube. I don't want to get us in trouble already. Gone, wiped out. And so, as Summer urges here, we need to remain vigilant here. We got to seek out trustworthy information sources that are not controlled by the captured corporate media. Those who have repeatedly shown that they'll twist the facts to serve their goals. Don't fall for it. It's
Exactly. And there's there's a commenter that has said that Redacted's channel argued that he's within his rights. And to read that, frankly, I'm not surprised, because Redacted has shown time and time again that they are controlled opposition and they are very much shills for the system. So I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Let's just show everybody right here why he's not well within his rights. If you see our thumbnail, you can see that Khalil is standing there, and we've got a big circle around someone's face. It's not Khalil. It's the one he works with. It's the one who is standing there with him, who says this.
My name is Sasha Lapetaway. I'm one of the associate directors.
Oh, this is
for Student Success and Intervention.
This one's 7 minutes long. I don't think this is the one I wanted to show. It probably is over here, though. I want to show you Kamani James, who is one of Mahmoud Khalil's comrades.
Comrades, yeah.
One of his comrades, if I can find it fast enough here. There's just so many of these links to follow here. It's hard to keep up with them all. Oh, boy. This just takes too long. Kamani James is not, his words, along with Quad's words there, are going to help you understand that this is not about free speech, and this is not some guy who is just openly states that Zionists don't deserve to live. And that's what he says here in this. If I can.
I'm Kamani James. I use he, she, they pronouns. Zionists in my DM wanting to meet up and fight. I don't fight to injure or for there to be a winner or loser. I fight to kill. See y'all in New York, January 2024.
So that's specifically what we're going to be discussing today. Do you see why that's problematic in any way?
No.
Do you think that there's a serious weight in taking someone else's life?
I think there is a serious weight in taking someone's life. And at the same time, I think that taking someone's life in certain case scenarios is necessary and better for the overall world. And so I personally have never killed anyone. Thank the Lord that no one has put me in that position. Though when Hitler died, the world rejoiced. Everyone looks back at that time period and said that Hitler needed to die because he was exacting an immense amount of harm against the world. And so just like that, during the Haitian Revolution, their Haitian slaves had to kill their masters in order to gain their independence. These were masters who were white supremacists. What is a Zionist? A white supremacist. And so let's be very clear here. I'm not saying that I'm going to go out and start killing Zionists.
I'm going to try to edit him a little bit.
Is that if an individual who identifies as a Zionist threatens my physical safety in person, i.e. puts their hands on me, I am going to defend myself. And in that case scenario, it may come to a point where I don't know when to stop. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
There should not be Zionists anywhere. Zionists are not.
Yeah, just for context here, this is he's in an interview now, fighting for whether or not he's going to be suspended or expelled, and eventually he says here that Zionists don't deserve to live, is what he says.
For my identity as a Black queer woman in New York City, obviously, if I'm on the train and I'm sexually assaulted or harassed in some way, like I may turn around and slap somebody, right? Doing and saying that versus saying that, you fight to kill. And you made a comment earlier where you stated that you may not know your own strength behind why, or you may not have the resistance to stop, right? That is kind of like what I'm taking from what you were sharing, that it could get to that point.
Okay, both of them have taken a break, everyone. So these are two Black women. I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm not too keen on going to.
So this is where he goes off script.
But yeah, these are two Black women in the meeting, just in case y'all couldn't tell already. But these are two Black women. The meeting's a joke. They definitely were hoping that I was going to walk back the I fight to kill. Your initial letter from your office mentioned that this meeting will determine if it needs to reach or go to a disciplinary hearing. Is that correct? And so that's what I'll be being notified about in 24 to 48 hours.
That, and it can also be that we need additional information. All of our letters are standard, so it depends on kind of like everything that you disclosed to us today and what we discussed.
Right. Okay then, well thank you.
No problem.
A lot of people agree that Hitler needed to die in order for world order to move forward and in order to establish some inkling of world peace. And so if we can agree as a society, as a collective, that people, some persons need to die if they have an ideology that results in the death of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, if there are people like that who exist, shouldn't they die? Why would we want people who are supporters of genocide to live? I'm confused. Zionists, along with all white supremacists, need to not exist because they actively kill and harm vulnerable people.
That's probably enough, right? It's just, he keeps repeating pretty much the same thing. And so this, Kamani James is with Mahmoud Khalil. They were both, we just call them leaders of the Quad that we showed you earlier. So the point of this is it would be very safe to assume that these are also the opinions and perspectives of Mahmoud Khalil, the one who is at this moment in process of being deported. Kamani James happens to be a U.S. citizen, and so he does have access to constitutional rights and due process. As far as Mahmoud Khalil, not so much. In fact, I think probably it's a good time now to show you what Marco Rubio's argument for this is, because and then we'll show you why Khalil shouldn't be in the country to begin with, because he lied on his application, his green card application. But Rubio makes a good case here, because, again, just to keep you up to speed, why this is important. They want you to think that this is about free speech. And apparently, from what I'm seeing in the chat and what Summer just said, Redacted is out there saying that Mahmoud Khalil is within his rights. He's not within his rights because he's not a U.S. citizen to start with. Let's listen to Rubio.
President Trump appealed to a lot of Americans during his campaign on free speech arguments and not suppressing.
So the questioner, the media, they're already framing it as a free speech issue. And it's not a free speech issue.
Especially from the government. But your revocation of the green card, to many, is seen as one of the most anti-speech actions a secretary could take with his powers. How do you respond?
Yeah, when you enter this is an important point, and I'm glad you asked this question. When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, as on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student, and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that. This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason. But I think being a supporter of Hamas and coming into our universities and turning them upside down and being complicit in what are clearly crimes of vandalization, complicit in shutting down learning institutions. There are kids at these schools that can't go to class. You pay all this money to these high-priced schools that are supposed to be of great esteem, and you can't even go to class. You're afraid to go to class because these lunatics are running around with covers on their face, screaming terrifying things. If you told us that's what you intended to do when you came to America, we would have never let you in. And if you do it once you get in, we're going to revoke it and kick you out.
All right. So what do you think about that? I'm curious as to what you guys think about this issue and this argument. So, in the live chat, let us know what you think about this, whether or not you think he should be deported or not. Do you think this is a free speech issue or not? And if you're watching this on replay, let us know in the comments. Maybe we could put up a poll question out in the community post later on and ask about this and share the link to this video. But we're going to continue making the argument now for why this is not a free speech issue and why that. Now, again, you know what? When we do this, Summer, sometimes it's people. I can already sense it coming. Right? It'll show up in the comments later. They want to call you a Trump supporter. They want to call you MAGA, and we're not that. We don't. We're not. We're Christians, and Christ is King, and we're visitors here, right? We're also visitors here. But if you could understand, just stop and think for a moment. When you have that kind of reaction, we're looking at the nuance of this issue here. We're not here to support a political candidate. We're trying to get to the truth of the matter. So whenever something like this comes out, if you feel yourself reacting that way, just understand there's a reason for that. Decades of social engineering to get us to think in black and white terms, to get us to divide us, right? It's a long process of dividing us. That's been taken on. What do you think, Summer, about that?
Yeah, I agree with you there. We're just literally trying to call the situations out as they come about, and looking at what is the White House saying, what is the Department of Homeland Security saying. Like, you have to realize, it's been really horrifying to sort of look around, and just particularly in this instance, because it's just so incredibly obvious the manipulation and the misdirection that's been taking place with this story, like on MSNBC and ABC. And we know that anyway, that's all old news to us, but just to see the blatant telling the truth falsely, being right wrongly, this, what we've been trying to give you guys a vocabulary for how to navigate the propaganda warfare that we find ourselves in right now. Because really, the fact of the matter is this person came into our university system very quickly, got access to having a student visa and certainly the green card in an expedited length of time that is very uncommon and unusual. Yeah. And this person also has been working for the British government, and also was a graduate student at Columbia, as you know, in the School of International and Public Affairs, and has also had a internship at the United Nations with an agency within the United Nations that is widely known to be supporting Hamas. Okay, so let that be another bit of information coming down the pipe for you. There's all kinds of nefarious, sprinklets, if you will, a trail of all the usual suspects that are always involved when these kinds of grand narratives get whipped up. And this does indeed seem like another George Floyd, if you will. It's kind of like this martyr that they're whipping up, this martyr. And it's amazing. Like, we were watching some of the podcasts, like we were watching Matt Kim, just it came up, one of the guests on his show, it came up. And granted, Matt wasn't aware of what was happening in the situation, but his guest gave faulty information to frame the situation. And then Matt Kim directly just didn't question that and went directly into this whole narrative that very much supports the idea that, our free rights, free speech is being violated. And, oh my gosh, and that is just so dangerous and irresponsible for people to get out there on the airwaves and give bad and misleading information and not understand what is actually going on. And just, even we say that we're smart and savvy to what ABC, NBC, MSNBC is doing out there, still you can see, even in the podcaster land, they're very much infected with the exact, talking points that are being rolled out by the establishment that is controlling this whole thing. So,
yeah, that's a really good point to take us into the rest of making the argument here for our case, because in the truth community, in the online patriot movement and whatever it is, it all kind of comes from the same area. People seeking truth and question the government. You should hold your government accountable, no question about it. But this idea of free speech it's so misunderstood. It's the idea being that I think what Matt Kim said was, when he was asked that, I think he was probably caught off guard by it because he hadn't heard the details, the facts of the case or the matter so far yet. And his I remember his exact response when he was told about this guy had been arrested. He said that's a dangerous thing for that to happen, and it would be if all he had done was to go out in the street and say, I'm tired of this war. I want people to stop dying. I think the war needs to stop, and I am for Palestine, and I'm for the people in Palestine. There's nothing radical about that. But that's not what he did. That's not who he is. Deporting Hamas supporters like Mahmoud Khalil is perfectly legal because a green card is not synonymous with censorship. All right. Now, this article, an article from City Journal. Go ahead and show you what this article looks like. We'll have to link this one. I think it's linked in the article.
It is linked right there.
Yeah,
if you just click the link.
I did. I just clicked it.
Yeah.
I was thinking in the description, but it's already linked in this article. We don't really need to link it in the description. And this is written by someone who would know, right? This is an attorney, Ariel Azarad, an attorney specializing in anti-terrorism litigation, a legal fellow. There it is. Major points from this article. All right. Who is a specialist in anti-terrorism litigation. Let me go back down here. For non-citizens residing in the United States, it's a coveted privilege for non-citizens to reside in the United States. It's not a right. It's a privilege. It's something that the United States government extends to foreigners. It's not something that you're born with, right? When they say right, a right is like a human right or enumerated rights that are mentioned in the Constitution. It's not that. That's not what this is. A green card is not synonymous with citizenship. Indeed, the federal government has the power to revoke a green card at any time, and this is what Rubio said. Under U.S. immigration law, non-citizens or aliens, including green card holders like Khalil, are expected to meet a certain standard of behavior. See, now, this is not the same as for a U.S. citizen. So when redacted, look, again, I'm not surprised that Clayton Morris over at Redacted is, or I don't know if it was he or his wife, but those are the same people who are very happy to feed their audience UFO narrative, to feed their audience stories that UFOs are abducting children in Indonesia. Just nonsense stories. And what's sad about that is when it comes to a lot of other stories, they cover them very well because they're news people. They're good at covering the stories, but they don't actually care about their audience. They don't mind to throw you garbage. I've said that before here. It's nothing new. And, I appreciate what they do. I just wish they would be, I wish they would care about their audience a little more. Anyway, But this is the reason I'm saying this is because this is law. And you've also got the fact that this guy is basically an enemy of the state. Quad's words clearly identify the organization. Again, fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. It insisted that its members must continue to escalate, right? That means to keep the riots and the mayhem and the violence, escalate it until the empire crumbles. And noted they were inspired.
Don't we see that happening all around, as particularly Western nations right now, at different levels across the finish line toward their communistic goals, toward tyranny, this false utopia that they're selling everybody.
Yeah, and they're not shy at all about letting you know that they are in fact inspired by, well, they will call it the Palestinian resistance. That's Hamas. That's the same thing. All right, hiding behind Palestinians, hiding behind innocent Palestinians, right? There's a difference. There's nuance here. You cannot be a supporter of innocent Palestinians and Hamas at the same time. Those things are contradictory. They can't exist together. And the fact that Hamas was designated a foreign terrorist organization by the State Department in 1997. There's no question about who the organization is. There's no question about the fact that Khalil is a supporter. Not only he is the question usually is, are you just an emotional supporter? Do you just support them with words, or do you also support them materially? And he's a material supporter of Hamas. The Department of Homeland Security alleges that Khalil, in similar fashion, distributed pro-Hamas flyers on Columbia University's campus bearing the Hamas insignia originating from Hamas' own media arm. So that would mean that he's happy to work arm in arm with a global terrorist organization. Additionally, the Secretary of State can seek the deportation of an alien if the Secretary has reasonable ground to believe that the presence, right there, reasonable ground to believe that the presence or activities of that visitor would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. And Rubio was reportedly presented with intelligence. Now, again, you have to understand what we're hearing publicly is not the whole story. They would not, this administration anyway, so far, this early in the game, they would not have apprehended this guy if they didn't have a pretty good reason for it. Not with all these eyes on him, not with all of the blowback that was going to come with it. So surely there's more. There doesn't need to be more, but surely there is. That's right. Rubio's got more intelligence than we know about, that he is a national security threat. So which is more basis for removal. Relevant to Khalil's case, U.S. law stipulates that an alien, a visitor in our country, is deportable if he endorses or espouses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terrorist activity or supports a terrorist organization. All right, so redacted. What do you? But what do you? Maybe they've changed their tune. I don't know. But how do you respond to that? And this is crucial right here. This point is huge. Support for a terrorist organization need not be monetary. That would be material support if you support them with money, donations, or gear, weapons or something, or clothing to help them to clothe their fighters. But it doesn't even have to go that far. Publicly supporting a terrorist organization in a capacity ordinarily described as speech may still render a visitor deportable. Now, this is not unusual, folks. These restraints are not unusual, and they don't violate First Amendment case law because, as you see here, the Supreme Court has long held that some classes of individuals, including students, prisoners, members of the armed forces, and foreigners, may be subject, to certain restrictions on their speech. There might be good reasons for that. Likewise, the court declared in Turner v. Williams that some views may be, quote, so dangerous to public welfare that aliens who hold and advocate them would be undesirable additions to our population. Again, let me stop and make sure that everyone's following here. We're not talking about American citizens. An American citizen has far more latitude to be critical of his government because it's his government. He is the government. If you're an American citizen, you are the government. So it's not the same. It's just he doesn't have the same standard of due process that an American citizen has. Okay, likewise, governments cannot be denied the power of self-preservation. I thought this was a very interesting point, too. Governments cannot be denied the power of self-preservation, and thus they have the right to deport individuals, like Khalil, who support foreign terrorist organizations. And specifically has been openly, proudly stating that they seek the destruction of Western civilization. And that just happens to be what the United States is and is founded on. We are Western civilization, and we kind of like it, and we don't want to see it destroyed. Now, you've heard, and you will hear in just a moment, I think maybe we could go ahead and jump to that now, because we'll come back. Here are some examples, some precedents where these kind of decisions to deport individuals have been made over the past, within the past 7 or 8 years. Back in 2014, and the Ninth Circuit upheld. These are under Democratic presidents. So we've got we've got one under Trump here in 2018. We've got another one here that would have been under Barack Obama in 2014. All right, so let's jump over here into these clips and tweets that we have for you. I want you to hear what Mahmoud Khalil's attorneys have said. So now when you see an image like this, where Trump says more arrests of pro-Hamas foreign students are coming, and something like this, like if you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of people, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you're not welcome here. Now that you know some more of the facts, and you know some of the case law and the actual statutes, it doesn't sound quite so harsh to hear Trump say something like, you're not welcome here. We've been trained. We've been softened over the years, right? We haven't had to deal with much of this. So let's check some of these out. We'll get to I want you to hear what Khalil's, one of his 20 or more defense attorneys, what their arguments have been, because none of them will say that it's unlawful for him to have been arrested and possibly deported.
You guys really don't need to be doing all of that. حبيبي كيف بدي اتصل فيك؟ Okay. Hi, Amy.
So this is when he was arrested.
Yeah, they just like handcuffed.
Okay, so the point here is that a lot of people say that he was basically kidnapped. Well, did you put this one in here, Summer? Do you have the background on this clip?
Yeah, it's just to show that he wasn't like ransacked in the middle of the night and dragged out with any sort of guns and scariness. They basically that was the arrest.
All right.
What? You're going to be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay,
Stop
let's
resisting.
not.
Stop resisting.
Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone, okay? He's not, I understand, he's not resisting. Like,
There's no need for this. Don't worry about it. You're going to have to come with us. Don't worry about it. I'm coming with you. Don't worry.
No one's resisting. No one's getting worked up.
you guys really don't need to be doing all of that. حبيبي كيف بدي اتصل فيك؟
Take Amy. Call Amy.
Okay. Hi, Amy. Yeah, they just like handcuffed him and took him. I don't know what to do. Okay.
Come on. She had to know this was inevitable. She had to know this day was coming sooner or later.
And what should I do? I don't know. Nor. Please, can we get your name? I understand the lawyer is asking for your name.
Go over there. No, we don't give our name.
The lawyer's asking for your name. He's saying they don't give their names.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
She said they're taking him to 26 Federal Plaza.
Again, you have to keep in mind, this is not, you're not talking about here an American citizen. Secretary of State Marco Rubio invoked Politico magazine, of course, says, invoked an obscure law in his effort to deport Khalil. What's so obscure about the fact that the United States has the right to not quarter people who are enemies to the United States? I thought this would be a little interesting to hear someone else's perspective from the other side.
Trump's characterization of Mahmoud is completely ridiculous and frankly defamatory. I mean, the guy that I know who worked at the embassy was a kind and deeply conscientious guy, and nobody I worked with would say any different.
Okay, but do you understand? The point is not whether he's a nice guy. Nobody's challenging. He's not being accused of being an a-hole. You know, he's an enemy of the state. He could be a nice guy and be an enemy, right? Patriot in NYC holds up a banner protesting against the jihadist Mahmoud Khalil, who was arrested for leading riots against Jewish students at Columbia. The banner gets stolen, and then a rumble breaks out. Yeah. So this has been going around to as part of the sympathizers, the Hamas sympathizers. This poem, this person says this poem should be burned in your mind these days, especially with the disappearing of Mahmoud Khalil. He wasn't disappeared. Those kind of things have happened, right? Under other administrations, they have happened. That's not what happened here. Go ahead, Sam.
This is total projection too, because, you know, as we all know, the forces that be are the ones that do this stuff. And, you know, and they're the ones that come in the middle of the night. They're the ones that gaslight you right in your face about the things that they're actually doing to you.
What's ironic about this is this was, if I'm not mistaken, this was the context for this was someone who was, there it is, because I was not a Jew. I'll just read it for you. First, think of Nazi. You're living in Nazi Germany, right? This is where this comes from. First, they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Right? Again, that's not what this is. This is written from the perspective of someone who was a citizen in Germany at that time. This is not the same thing. Mahmoud is not a citizen of the United States. He's a visitor, and he's here on a privilege, not a right. This is Mahmoud's wife, who we just heard a moment ago. A lot of the pictures of her have been like this, you know, building a lot of, I guess, sympathy. We'll listen to this. This is a few seconds long here.
So let me get this straight. You come to our country on a green card, vandalize property, physically attack people, hold a janitor hostage. People are mad and protesting that you're getting deported. Yeah, no, that's not how this works. Let's be so clear. This has nothing to do with freedom of speech. The First Amendment protects your right to express your opinion, but it doesn't protect you when your speech turns into violence, into destruction. and criminal activity. That
correct. We've made that argument here too, but that's not even. Let's just go ahead and let me get to this this part. Let's get to the issue about his green card application.
Yeah.
Because and we'll listen to his defense attorneys here in just a minute, but I just want to make the case that the guy from the start was disqualified because he obviously lied on this document here. Oh, there you go. Someone's done it for us.
There it is.
She's put it all together for us. Look at this. Let me open this in a new tab so we can see it all. There we go.
Yeah, just click on it.
All right. So there's the first one. This is what the green card application looks like, all right? And if you look here, I know it's a little bit hard to read because of the quality of my monitor here. But question 42C, do you intend to, while you're in the United States, do you intend to engage in any activity whose purpose includes opposing, controlling, or overthrowing the U.S. government by force, violence, or unlawful means while in the United States? Do we remember what their goals are? Here you go. Fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. Okay, specifically, come back over here. Where was that other one?
Right, which he was a negotiator for that organization.
Yeah, he negotiated when they took control of Columbia University, right? He was the lead negotiator. So he was representing them. He's very happy to represent them. Right, you can see here, we reject the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency's weaponizing of the United States racist immigration laws to prevent our international comrades and peers from speaking up. Okay, so what empire is it that they want to tear down? Well, clearly, it is the United States of America. So there's one. Right, so he would have had to have lied. Right here, he should have checked. Yes, I do intend to do that.
And honestly, as we go through these points, and as you can read in detail in the article that we provided, I'm not even convinced that he even filled this application out, because when you look at his connections,
someone
and
did
what
it for him.
where he used to work and where he did his internship at United Nations, and how he got this green card way faster than anybody normally does.
Yeah.
Who's to say he even filled this thing out?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, this guy is here under very suspicious circumstances. It's not a free speech issue, folks. This guy is a plant. Now, I'm just saying that by conjecture. I don't have any evidence to prove that claim.
But the paper trail that has been left
Yes.
around him does indicate that he is a plant, and that he has had outside help.
Looks
And
like a duck.
certainly we can see that with his 20 lawyers that he has right now too. I mean, I know that obviously it's an issue that everybody's going to get involved in, and here's my moment of fame, so I want to work on this case. But you get where I'm going with this, yeah?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's all the evidence points to the fact that he is certainly an agent here meant to do this. And question number 45 on the green card application: do you intend to engage in any activity that could endanger the welfare, safety, or security of the United States? All right. Let's see, and there's more here.
We know too that some of these paid agitators, the Jewish Voice for Peace.
Yeah, we'll show some clips. I'll show that clip.
Yeah, we know that they're funded, by George Soros and Rockefeller Brothers Fund.
That's another thing. So you know what? Let me read this question, then I'll point out too that how whenever you take this position that we're taking now, people will say, well, look at you sympathizing with the Zionists. Folks, if you think that we're sympathizing with Zionists, you
haven't obviously read all of our work about how bad political Zionism is and how bad Christian Zionism is. We are not Zionists.
No, we're not. But at the same time, we're absolutely not here saying that they don't have the right to exist, like we just heard Kamani James saying. No, we have to understand, that these issues are complex, and you have to go for the truth. You can't go for the emotion. You can't go for your favorite team. You have to go for the truth. Question 52 on the green card exam here says, have you ever been a member of or in any way affiliated with the Communist Party or any totalitarian party in the United States or abroad?
Ding, 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 ding.
And I think you can probably tell that from this document on the Columbia's website where they describe exactly who they are. They're
That
most
is
certainly
that's textbook Marxist rhetoric.
Yeah, Marxist rhetoric. They're certainly coming from, if it's either communist totalitarianism or it's a form of Islamist totalitarianism. Either way, and by the way, let's go ahead and let you in on this little tip here. We've got some new texts that we're digging into right now that show the distinct and very clear connection between the rise of communism and those two being mixed in with Islamism. When I say Islamism, I mean I'm talking about political Islam. I'm talking about the totalitarian or theocratic versions of Islam. That whenever it's expedient, they will join hands and work together.
It's a known thing that Marxists work hand in hand with Islam for the expediency of trying to topple Western hegemony, right?
Exactly.
So, they can be co-belligerents for a while in this battle until, they get to a certain point across the finish line, and then that blows up too. But for sure, there is a long history of being co-belligerent between Marxism and radical Islam. It's just, you can just see it in history, throughout history. This is not a recent event.
Well, and then there's this statement from the Quad Martyrs Day, the meaning of martyrdom, which starts off with, "Comrades, our duty toward these martyrs is to clearly discern things, see our cause, clearly proclaim it, and decide to act in the light of clear evidence that our revolution will continue to endure and exist in this way, and that no force in the world is capable of dominating the masses of our Palestinian and Arab people." Okay.
Right, because workers of the world unite, right?
Workers of the world.
That's the end of the Communist Manifesto.
Now, this brings us to some of our other clips here. Jewish Voices for Peace is, at this time, occupying Trump Tower in New York City. Well, they were when Khalil was arrested, and they have been this weekend. I don't know if they're still there at this moment, but they have been up until as recently as last night, occupying Trump Tower. Now, here's the question: where was that clip of the person? Oh, that was that YouTube. Did you save that video?
Which? What are you talking about? Jewish Voices for Peace? How it's funded by George Soros and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund?
Something Friedman show that we were just watching a few minutes ago.
Yeah, Friedman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
would be in the history.
Okay, yeah. Because he goes up and asks these people, "Do you think Trump is a dictator?" And the point to that is that they're occupying basically his residence, one of his homes, in the lobby downstairs, to be sure. His wife could be there. His family could be there right now. They're probably in Florida right now, but they could be there. But the fact that they're there occupying Trump Tower, and the fact that he hasn't called out the National Guard, I might, if I was him, and my family was there, I might be running airstrikes on the place. I don't know what it would do. But I'm just telling you that the man is showing a tremendous amount of restraint because they're just letting them walk out. They're taking them out of the lobby and just letting them go without arresting them. That's a tremendous amount of restraint.
Right. That's just adhering to lawfulness.
Yeah. Lawfully they should be arrested for trespassing, but they're not. Most of them are not even being arrested. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, it certainly doesn't indicate that he's a dictator is the point. I mean, it's just like, if he was the dictator, he'd have them all lined up and shot, or he'd put them all in jail, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you'd never see them again. They would be disappeared.
Yep. Okay, I'm in our history here. I want to try to find that show, but it's just not at the top.
Yeah, it'll be in there.
It's not there.
Friedman.
It's not there.
Friedman.
Nope.
No, well, it will be though.
But it's not. It's just not there right now.
Keep going. There it is. Oh gosh.
It's still populating. There's just an awful lot of Freedom News TV clips here. Okay, here it is. Nate Friedman. Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. So, and also the fact that the other
officially prevented them
the other
from doing
evidence
their
here,
jobs. Like this driver can't deliver his can.
There we go. The other evidence here is that pretty much all of these protesters and the ones last summer, the pro-Hamas protesters, are paid protesters. And here's let's just start right here.
I'll talk to you. Let's set up a separate
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
So this is at
really
Trump Tower.
I'm wondering if I could have a conversation with you without you filming me?
No.
I'd like to just talk to you.
No, I have to get this done for my job.
What's your job?
My job, I'm a YouTuber.
Oh, what's your YouTube channel?
My name is Nate Friedman.
Can I look you up?
I want to ask you one question and I will leave. Do you think that Trump is a dictator? Yes or no?
Nate Friedman?
Yeah, my name is Nate Friedman.
On YouTube?
Yes.
Is this your channel?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Do you think that Trump is a dictator? Are you not going to answer? I don't think he's a dictator.
What do you think about him?
Can you tell me? I answered your question?
I don't really know.
So you don't think he's a dictator?
I'm curious what you think.
I answered you, and I said he's not a dictator.
I'm curious why you think that.
Because if he was, he would send in the military and take you guys out of here, but he's not.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
That's a great point, right? Because if the guy was a dictator, these people would have occupied their last building ever. If he was a dictator, they would just line them up in the alley and do away with them. But he's not doing that.
That's interesting.
He's showing a lot of
do you
restraint.
think he's a dictator, yes or no?
I'm really just curious what you think.
Okay, so that's your strategy, is to not answer and ask me what I
Yes,
think
that's the
again and
strategy.
again.
Yes, I'll skip through this because he doesn't answer, and Nate Friedman gets pretty frustrated with him because this is what they do. They just show up on the scene and raise all kinds of hell, and when you ask them why they're there and what they're doing, nobody can say anything. And that's usually, some of them can't because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Others of them that are there have been told specifically to not speak to media. Don't say anything because you'll give it away. You'll give away the fact that we've all been paid by Soros or whoever.
It is funny because if you watch that video, it's like he goes around and he tries to get people to talk with him.
Yeah.
And they literally just will not talk with him. They just won't talk with him about any of their views, and they'll just run off or they'll pretend that they're super offended. Yeah. So it's just this attitude that it's very much in alignment with, what their ideology says, which is that you're there to be a systems change disruptor. Yeah. You're there to throw a wrench in the system. You're there to agitate. The reaction is the real action. So if you're coming from that camp, you're there, but you're not there to be any sort of for reconciliation or for peace or for having a logical conversation that's respectful.
No, you're there to create chaos.
It's all about throwing, fuel on the fire.
It's chaos.
And stoking resentments.
They're there to create chaos. There's nothing more. Just create chaos. Here's another example. Here's another example of that. It's just frustrating.
I have a question. Do you think that Trump is a dictator? So you don't want to answer. Why can't I ask that question?
There's some media people if you want to talk to them.
No, I want to talk to you. You're occupying this.
That's right. Thanks.
Oh my God. It's funny, I mostly see women protesting. I wonder if these women know that in Sharia law, women are forced to wear the hijab and can't travel without a male guardian, can't drive or work freely, and a woman's testimony is valued as half of a man's. Homosexuality is also punishable by execution. Meanwhile, Tel Aviv, Israel has been ranked #1 for the most gay-friendly city in the world. This Jews for Peace thing is literally chickens for KFC. They'll continue to chant "Let Gaza live" as Hamas hides behind civilians in schools and hospitals. Nothing about the American Jewish hostage that's currently under Gaza right now. Nothing about any of the hostages, just free Palestine. I had to honestly let my IQ reset. So
that's just part of the dialectic here. All right, I will show you now. I want you to hear what Khalil's attorneys have said. If I can get there quick enough. Everything is moving so slow, folks, because we're still working from our, we're working from home. We don't have our studio back yet, and obviously the computer I'm using is so slow.
By the way, Susan Sarandon was there, but she was like really.
We'll show her right here. I'll show that.
She just like gave a very faint speech.
Yeah, I don't think she really wanted to. I think she had to, but she didn't really want to.
Unless we caught the tail end of it or something. Like maybe we caught the tail end.
Freedom of speech. Sorry, can you hold the mic? This is more important than anything. Sorry. Thank you so much.
No matter where you stand on genocide, freedom of speech issue is a right that we all have. So this is a turning point in the history and the freedom of speech.
That's it. So Susan Sarandon, so that's Hollywood showing up to support this scene, but boy, that was lackluster. It's like she really didn't want to be doing that for some reason, and I think it's probably because Hollywood, they're starting to figure out that people are pretty much over it. They're kind of over this attitude. The only people that are happy about this are the people who are actually out there in the streets getting their $20 a day stipend and their hot dogs for screaming at people all day. That's the only people who are happy about this now. This is one of Khalil's attorneys. Just listen to the nonsense. It's nothing about the merits of the case. It's just about emotions. It's just about projecting feelings and ideas about what his rights are or should be, but no merits of the case. There's nothing about the actual statute that we read to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we tried to make clear in court today, what happened to Mahmoud Khalil is nothing short of extraordinary and shocking and outrageous. It should outrage.
Now, that's what I wanted to play. I wanted you to hear him say that it's shocking, extraordinary, and outrageous, because we'll come right over here. In 2018, the Sixth Circuit Court upheld a decision by immigration courts denying entry to an alien who had copied and distributed flyers on behalf of 2 Iranian terrorist organizations. And then in 2014, under Barack Obama, the Ninth Circuit upheld an immigration court finding that an alien had provided support to Mujahideen Khalq, later designated a foreign terrorist organization, after he had produced flyers and written articles in support. So, despite the claims of all his defenders, Khalil's alleged activities make his deportation perfectly legal and reasonable under federal law. Doing so is consistent with what the Supreme Court has called the government's power of self-preservation against those who seek its destruction, as Khalil's organization obviously has. Let's see. Let's listen. I want you to hear a little bit more of his defense attorneys, because actually you'll hear one of the reporters in a minute challenge him as to why he didn't take the judge's invitation to argue the merits of the case today. And he just ignores it.
Believes that speech should be free in the United States of America. Mr. Khalil is a lawful permanent resident. He was coming home with his U.S. citizen wife, who was 8 months pregnant, and he was taken by.
So that's the argument, by the way. That's really the argument. His wife's pregnant. You shouldn't arrest him because his wife's pregnant. Okay, well, that's
Government agents in retaliation, essentially, for exercising his First Amendment rights, for speaking up in defense of Palestinians in Gaza and beyond, for being critical of the U.S. government and of the Israeli government. Those are the reasons why he was targeted. Those are the reasons why he was detained. And that's the reason why the government also moved him to Louisiana in further retaliation for the fact that on the night of his arrest at home, he filed a habeas corpus petition in this court, which he also had a constitutional right to do. In retaliation for that, he was moved to Louisiana to take him away from his lawyers, to take him away from accessing this court, to take him away from his family.
I tell you, I mean, the audio is so horrible there. I'm just going to, in a minute, the reporter does ask him, why didn't he argue the merits? I'll show you that, because he just blows it off. Let's see, maybe it's right here. This audio is terrible.
Ramsey, why did you? The audio does clean up as it goes forward.
Yeah. This is it right here.
Yeah.
Fight this removal case.
Ramsey, why did you not take the judge's invitation to argue the merits?
So we won't be answering questions right now.
Can you just tell us just how unprecedented something?
Yeah, we just can't answer that question right now. Tell us how unprecedented this is, they're asking.
Like this is, can you just talk about that?
Look,
no questions yet.
Okay, just that question.
See, you can't ask them, just like these protesters or whatever you want to call them. They will not answer your question. That's because they're not there for any reason other than to sow discord and create chaos.
I mean, if you look at his body language too, it's like he's very unsure of like what he's saying.
I think you're right.
And it seems like he's just, it's not. I
think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's very uncomfortable in this position, but he's being paid very well. George Soros has deep pockets. This is one of Khalil's defense attorneys, and he's actually going to try to explain to you why it's so important, that they're defending him and how wrong Trump is on this.
ZMY from the Center for Constitutional Rights. Mr. Khalil's detention has nothing to do with security. It is only about repression. The United States government has taken the position that it can arrest, detain, and seek to deport a lawful permanent resident exclusively because of his peaceful, constitutionally protected activism. In this case, activism in support of Palestinian human rights and an end to the genocide in Gaza. The government
that is
takes the
not
position
true.
that because the secretary.
Let's listen to it one more time.
That is just absolutely a limited hangout, what they call a limited hangout of just putting some thoughts out there that don't actually reflect the reality of the matter.
No, it's most certainly not what this is about. Not at all.
It's a mischaracterization of what the situation. Yeah, exactly.
That because the Secretary of State finds his dissent unacceptable.
It's not his dissent that's unacceptable. It's the fact that he heads up or at least represents, is one of the leaders of an organization who has called for the eradication of Western civilization and to keep fighting until the empire, the United States of America, crumbles. Right? That's not dissent. That's not dissent. That is an enemy. Goodness.
Or contrary to U.S. foreign policy, he can be deported. As Ramsey suggested, it's largely unprecedented, save for ugly historical precedents, including the Red Scare and
Okay, so here he's saying that this never happens. The only time it has happened was way back in the Red Scare and during during the days of McCarthyism. Again, he's just lying. He's just lying. I gave you two cases there a minute ago, or
He's
gave
lying.
you two cases.
And the other thing is that McCarthyism was true.
Yeah,
that there was a Red Scare.
Yeah.
These people are the McCarthy, what McCarthy was warning about.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty hilarious that they would get up there and say that. And the other thing is with this big media frenzy over, oh my gosh, America is hypocritical about free speech, and they've got this tyrant now. So then that's meant to lead the world into thinking that America doesn't really believe in its free speech, and America's lost its free speech, and look at this dictator who's kicking people out for lawful, something lawful that they did. That is totally a mischaracterization of what's actually taking place when you look at the facts. And so this is again, as I've said a million times, this is the hate craft. This is the cultural revolution that we find ourselves in right now. We are literally in the middle of a cultural revolution that is just full-blown fire hosing people with this hate craft, this division, divisive rhetoric that does not actually reflect reality. The Trump administration does actually just want to neutralize someone who has aligned himself with Hamas and a terrorist organization and has not been quiet about it, by the way. The information is out there. His paper trail online is out there for all to see, that this is about Hamas, his affiliation with Hamas.
Yes, absolutely. As we start to finish up here, I'm going to give you a biblical case for this in just a moment. But I also want to share this with you because we have a problem in the United States right now. And that problem is that we are allowing people who hate us to not only come here and just live among us and build up their numbers so they can take us out, but we're allowing them to lead us. We're allowing them to be in positions of authority over us. That's right. That's not smart. There is no biblical precedent. This is not humility. This is not turning the other cheek. This is an operation being run against us. I want you to listen to this 30 seconds here of Ilhan Omar, all right, who holds a congressional seat, and listen to what she says about Americans.
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people, because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing, not just in Congress, but as Americans. And the fact that these people are allowed to say just the most ridiculous things.
Isn't that interesting that she's going to make a case here for the fact that how can these people be allowed to say such things? Meanwhile, we're over here arguing about how Khalil's free speech has been violated.
Yeah, whatever's expedient for the moment. This is the same camp that wanted to censor everybody. And now suddenly they're out there advocating for free speech in the Constitution. It's whatever's expedient to get their goals done. That's what they'll do. That's why they are chameleons, because they have the only ideology that they truly have is to destroy God's order. I mean, that's what it ultimately comes down to.
That's exactly right. And that's what I'm going to do now is I want to go through just a bit here with you. And we'll go back to Deuteronomy 32. We'll just go back to the OT. We'll start there. If you're playing along with the home game, you want to follow along with the biblical argument. Now, I would start at Romans 13. We're going to skip over that because we've argued that several times, so many times before. The idea there being that governments are established by God. All right, they're established by God for God's purposes. That the nation state, since the Tower of Babel, the nation state has been the order. It's been God's will that the nation state would be the way we would live. And that is because that is specifically to restrain evil in the world. Governments are ordained by God to restrain evil in the world, and also to let's just read Romans 13. I've got it right here. Romans 13, 1 through 4, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. Now remember, this is not saying that you have to do that you have to violate your conscience. If the government commands you to do that which God forbids, you honor God and not man. And if the government prevents you from doing that which God commands, you obey God rather than man. So just get that out of the way. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is the servant of God and an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. What that means is God has allowed this, he has instituted it. This is the way that evil will be restrained in the world with governments. They will exist until the end. Okay? Now, sometimes they turn and they become evil governments. God allows that. He allows that for judgment on people. He's allowed it on us, right? We're still under judgment here. We're not out of the woods here. We're still under judgment here. All right, so governments are God-ordained institutions. They have the moral duty to punish evil. They have the moral duty to maintain order. Now let's jump over here to Deuteronomy 32 and look at what we find there. Deuteronomy 32, verse 8. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. All right, so God himself established the principle of national boundaries. The Old Testament reflects this in Israel's own governance. Outsiders, or what are known as sojourners in Scripture, were welcome. Outsiders, travelers, sojourners were welcome, but only under certain conditions. Those who refused to integrate peacefully into the society, into the nation, or those who actively opposed the nation were driven out. Let's look at Nehemiah 13. We're going to dig through the Old Testament today. We'll look at, where are we here? Nehemiah 13. Verses 23 through 27. In those days also I saw the Jews who had married women of Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. And half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod, and they could not speak the language of Judah, but only the language of each people. And I confronted them and cursed them and beat some of them and pulled out their hair, and I made them take an oath in the name of God, saying, you shall not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons or for yourselves. Did not Solomon king of Israel sin on account of such women? Among the many nations there was no king like him, and he was beloved by his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, foreign women made even him to sin. Shall we then listen to you and do all this great evil and act treacherously against our God by marrying foreign women? That's an interesting point, right? But the point here, how this applies, the application would be, this is describing Nehemiah expelling those who had intermarried with foreign pagan nations, right? Those who had introduced influences that were hostile to Israel's religious and cultural integrity. And so this demonstrates that nations have the right to determine who may dwell among them based on their allegiance to the nation's principles. Proverbs 31. This will be a little less obscure. Proverbs 31. I was going to make this argument from the most obscure right up to the most obvious. Proverbs 31, verses 8 and 9. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. So, if a foreigner within a nation incites violence or aligns with enemies, then they jeopardize the safety of the law-abiding populace. And in that case, a righteous government must act in defense of their people. Deportation is a lawful means of achieving that without immediate recourse or harsher punishment, right? Just deport the guy instead of execution. Doesn't deportation seem more humane? I mean, you want to make that argument? This is in alignment with the biblical theme that rulers must act for the welfare of the people under their authority. All right. Psalm 101, no one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who utters lies shall continue before my eyes. Morning by morning I will destroy all the wicked in the land, cutting off all the evildoers from the city of the Lord. This verse applies to Israel's governance specifically, but its underlying principle remains true. Those who incite violence or align with enemies must not be allowed to remain within the land. All right? So the government's legal and moral right to deport individuals who incite violence or support national enemies is supported by Scripture through the principles in Romans 13. God has ordained, governments have been ordained by God to punish evil and maintain order. Deuteronomy 32, nations have the right to regulate their borders and protect their sovereignty. Deuteronomy 32 and Nehemiah 13. Proverbs 31, the state has a duty to protect its citizens from harm. And Psalm 101, justice demands that evildoers who threaten the peace of a nation be removed. So this is the biblical foundation for deporting someone who is obviously there to stir up trouble, who isn't there honestly. We just showed he started his whole experience in the United States began with a lie. So the government,
Would,
Brad, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, jumping back over to the article. I think this would be a good time to go
I want to
just further down where we're talking about, the target's reaction is their real action, and the text that's under there, to go through those points, because what it's talking about is that he recently immigrated to the U.S. on a student visa in 2022, securing a green card in 2024. So to go through that timeline and how suspicious that looks is a really interesting next segment, I think.
Let's do that. Yeah, rapid transition. Okay. More reasons. We've given you the biblical case. We've given you the legal case. Now, let's give you more of the circumstantial case, all right? It seems that he was transitioned into our nation very rapidly. There seems to be something going on there that's not honest, all right? Khalil arrived on a student visa in 2022 and obtained a green card in 2024, an unusually fast timeline for most applicants who often wait for years, right? I've heard of people waiting for a decade or more for this. He got it very quickly. He also didn't really have a clear sponsor, right? When you come here to work, you're in a green card, or you're a visa, you're a visitor in the country, you need someone's sponsoring you. Someone's going to be responsible for you. And the available information does not indicate an employer or family member who is sponsoring his green card, which is a requirement that you would typically be required, unless he applied through some kind of special exemption. And maybe that's the case too. What about his political and diplomatic ties? His past employment with the British government and the United Nations, of course. Big problems. Both of these entities deeply involved in international political and humanitarian efforts, raises questions about whether his immigration status received preferential treatment. The timing of Khalil's marriage. Khalil married his wife, who was a U.S. citizen, in 2023, but his green card was reportedly granted in 2024. Again, that is very fast, making it unclear if his marriage played a role in the process or not. Okay. National security.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. Given his involvement
Please get better.
given his involvement with Quad. Oh yeah, it does. It gets way worse. Given his involvement with the radical activist group, his alleged ties to Hamas, his swift legal status adjustment could suggest political or institutional backing. All right, political or institutional backing. And remember, we just had a particular group of people in power who were openly, very clearly trying to take our nation down. They were trying to ruin us. All right. Now, while some expedited immigration cases occur under special circumstances, Khalil's unusually rapid transition from student visa holder to green card recipient, especially with his government and UN ties, raises legitimate concerns about how and why his case was handled so quickly. All right. Again, his green card was approved just 5 months before now, right, before his deportation proceedings. This brings up all kinds of red flags, especially given his direct involvement in radical campus activism. Again, it was 11 days after Trump was elected that his green card was approved, fast-tracked through, right? Because someone knew that when Trump comes into office that he's going to go after these people. They were trying to protect him with this status. His leadership role as a negotiator for Quad at Columbia University, the rioters, right, the encampment, the pro-Hamas groups, coupled with his internship at UNRWA, a UN agency long scrutinized for its ties to Hamas, further deepens concerns about his affiliations and potential foreign-backed influences. Now, these right here are probably some of the most obvious problems with Khalil. Things you're just not hearing. You're just not hearing this stuff on.
No, you're not going to hear that out there.
No.
Trust me.
No, not even on like Newsmax, places like that who are very, very pro-Trump, really always apologists for the administration. They don't even seem to be aware of this. Ties to the United Nations and UNRWA. Khalil entered UNRWA as an organization. Interned for them. This organization that it's been alleged that they provide material support to Hamas. That means they provide money, clothing, food, weapons to the fighters, to the terrorists, employing radicals, and even having staff involved in the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Now, are you catching this? I know I gommed it up a little bit there, but this is a big point.
Yeah, we're talking. It's the hidden hand. It's the George Soroses. It's the uppers, the people that you don't know about.
He was an intern for a United Nations organization who allegedly provided material support to Hamas and had staff involved in the October 7th attack on Israel. And the media is just trying to tell you this is a free speech issue. Redacted is trying to tell you that he's within his rights. Is Redacted paying attention? Folks, if Redacted can't... Look, we're not news people. We're not news people. We're evangelists. We're a ministry here. We talk about the news because it's important to understand how to live today in this crazy world as a Christian. But what in the world? Surely they have access to this information, right? This is Summers' research, by the way. So if you're gonna give some props,
if you're gonna come after anybody, come after me.
Right.
But he was working at for the British government, and he got his graduate. He was a graduate student, for the School of International and Public Affairs. I mean, this guy, he was translating for people, so he's a guy that knows some people, that's connected to some people, if you know what I mean.
Hey, tell us about these next couple sections here about the Open Society and these next two paragraphs here. Do you want to cover? Just tell us about those two right quick.
Well, so what's been uncovered here is the possible foreign influence of George Soros and Open Society networks, the tactics of Quad, escalating campus disruptions, pushing anti-Western narratives, and aligning with militant movements closely mirrors the color revolution style tactics backed by Soros-funded networks. Open Society Foundations has a long history of funding grassroots activism, as we all know, that aligns with globalist interests, including movements aimed at destabilizing national governments plural, not just in the USA, the Anglosphere, the first world nations, and conservative institutions. The pattern of so there's a pattern clearly of elite support for these agitators. Figures like Khalil often emerge in well-funded protest movements, check, enjoying legal protections, check, media sympathy, hello, check, and elite institutional backing. The speed of his immigration approval, his United Nations internship, and his high-profile role in a radical student group all point to a strategic placement rather than an organic student activist. Okay, so the role in Quad and anti-Western, the anti-Western agitation, Quad's open advocacy for the eradication of Western civilization, as well as its internationalist, which just means communistic, anti-capitalist rhetoric, suggests an agenda beyond student activism, right? So what it suggests is that he's played a central role as a negotiator to play a role in orchestrating campus unrest. And so the last point would be that the anti-capitalist, anti-colonial framework, under that veil, Khalil's advocacy was not just about Palestine, but rooted in a broader Marxist and anarchist movement that rejects Western institutions, police, and borders, exactly what Quad has promoted. So this guy has all kinds of dirt on him, around him. He has the digital paper trail, if you will. There's also videos that we pulled out in the bookmarks on Twitter showing some of his boots on the ground activism as well. If we want to show those, I don't know if it's even necessary at this point.
Yeah, I think we've made our case, and we'll probably cut it off right here just to give so it'll stay at a decent length that people might watch it. There's a biblical case for this. We've made that for you, right? It's the duty of governments to protect the people who are under their authority. We made the biblical case for you. We showed you the legal. We showed you the statute. We showed you some precedent, some case law on this. So you just cannot trust. You cannot trust and put any faith whatsoever in what the mainstream media is telling you, what most of the alternative media is telling you, what most of the podcasters are, because for some reason it seems like they're not really interested in looking underneath the story to get down to what the facts are. They're really more interested in just sort of grifting, just sort of coming on there and just talking about how we need to protect free speech at all costs. And I think free speech is so very important. But the way we protect free speech is not allowing stuff like this to go on. We protect our nation by not allowing agitators and enemies of the state to come in and infiltrate us. That's how we protect. That's how we protect our liberties.
Right.
First of all, it's not up to the government. Ultimately, it's not up to the federal government to protect your freedoms and your liberties. It's your job. It's your job. It's my job. It's all of our jobs where we live to be involved, to be engaged citizens, to pay attention to stuff like this, develop a real opinion on it, develop a fact-based, biblically based argument for understanding all of these things when they happen, so that we can speak the truth and so that we can glorify Christ in the truth as we do it. These things are really important, and I hope that we've been able to do that for you here today. Summer, go ahead and any parting words you might want to.
Thank you. I just hope that you guys received this message in the spirit in which it was intended, which is just to bring hopefully some clarity to a very confusing situation, and also would encourage you guys, whenever you have time,
to go ahead and check out the last few articles that we've done, because it's really been pressed upon me. Like, I've just really felt fired up to try to articulate as much as possible the ways in which people are being sort of sucked into these rabbit holes, if you will. And we've got a lot of really great work out there to help you just how to navigate through all the different narratives, because, you know, for sure right now in the digital realm, it's like people are trying to convince you of this and that and this and that, and it's so easy to get swept away in these different currents of deception, and this being one of them, you know. And we have to definitely think about how it affects us on the individual level, like this particular case with Khalil, but also what it says about the United States to the world as well. Because, you know, with the advent of the internet, we're all so connected now, like, and intertwined. And if everybody believes that, like, oh, you know, America's now fallen to this dictator, and we don't really, you know, America doesn't really have freedom of speech anymore, and look at what they're doing, they're persecuting people. I mean, that's just not what's happening. I mean, the reality of the situation is they're weaponizing this idea that freedom of speech is being attacked. Like, that's literally, it's such a gaslighting thing that they're doing right now. It is such a projection and a misdirection for the facts of what's at hand. And so just encouraging us as Christians to really, you know, just hold fast to trying to get to the bottom of what the actual facts are that are happening around us right now, because there is so much bad information out there, and there's a lot of laziness, people just not looking into the facts of what they're talking about out there on all these podcasts. So it's not just even the news agencies, but it's our peers, these people that are supposed to be our peers and people that are supposed to be on our side. You know, it's a call to just be more responsible with how with getting what can be known, you know, straight before we go out there and form opinions, and then we fall into ditches and we play into that left-right paradigm, or that globalist versus nationalist paradigm that then can be weaponized against us all, you know, divide and conquer. So I praise God for for just everything. Like, I praise God for this channel and for my marriage with Brad, and the fact that the Lord has made it possible for us to do this work. I mean, it seems like our channel is becoming more and more and more and more suppressed, but by the same token, we also have a thought that perhaps that's part of the psychological warfare against Brad and I, you know, that maybe they're just like messing with the numbers, and that this message is getting out to a lot more people than what we think it is. But those of you who've been with us for a while, you know, you could definitely see that the viewership has gone down and down and down and down. I mean, it's crazy how much it seems like we're being, you know, completely shadow banned. So maybe that's by God's grace, and for all those who love God, things work out for our good. So we take rest in that. But carry on, my friends out there, and thank you for sticking with us to the end of the show if you've made it this far.
Yeah, those what Summer's saying is true. It's been we don't really edit ourselves, and we just want to tell you what's really happening, and we want to filter it all through the biblical worldview. And I sometimes I look at it like I believe that the Lord is protecting us by not allowing us to get that kind of traction and become a big channel who suddenly, you know, feels like you have to serve the platform or something like that. And or you know, it's sort of a blessing to stay under the radar. And so we talk about this a lot behind the scenes, you know, and this is kind of a perspective I usually take, is I think the Lord's protecting us by keeping us down low, on the down low, you know, at least until either at which the time, whenever he feels like that it's a good time, that we're ready, it's a good time for us to to be more prominent? I don't know, but we by His grace, we're here doing it. You know, we've got the support, and we thank the Lord for the support to be able to do this full time, because it feels like a miracle that we're allowed to do it. Allowed to do this.
Yet,
And
Droopy Dog says your channel is not recommended at all. Must be doing something right.
maybe so, yeah, and hopefully that's what that actually means. I just wanted to point out this article before we get off of here. I wanted to show you this article that Summer put up here a couple days ago, 2 days ago. Unrestrained free trade, basically. Free trade is not biblical. Free trade is inherently evil. I think if that sounds odd to your ear, I didn't say fair trade, okay? I said free trade, meaning unrestrained trade is inherently evil. I think you need to click on that. You need to go to our Substack and click on that and read that. And there's also a video in there that I think you're going to find very, very interesting about this topic. Ezekiel 27 and 28, where the case is made for this point. Because I hadn't thought about this before. And this week, Summer posted this article, and that's a very interesting one. Another article that she posted here, let me find it. Where is it? It's the, here, Navigating the Age of Narratives. We've had a lot lately. Navigating the Age, let me see, can I make this smaller so you can see it? Wow, that didn't work. Right here, Navigating the Age of Narratives. Over here, this is let me see, click on it. Exposing the engineered strategy to dismantle God's divine order. Now, we had a different show planned for you today, and that had to do with
things just move so fast.
Yeah, things move fast. We thought this would be more important because we need to make the biblical case for why it's good and right to deport people when they shouldn't be in your country, when they shouldn't be in your nation, right? There's nothing Christian or biblical about just allowing people to come and destroy you or walk all over you. We're not called necessarily to that. But that article there, Navigating the Age of Narratives, along with this idea here, all I'm offering you is the truth, which is a quote from the Matrix movie. The Matrix mindset of liberation through deconstruction of society. So those two pieces kind of work together, and when the time is right, we'll come back and we'll give you this show, because this is going to have to do with the Matrix and the fact that in this truth movement, this online discernment movement, it's very clear that it is, I'm sure most don't realize it, but the idea of deconstruction, which is really
which is the Great Reset.
It's an element of cultural Marxism. Yeah,
it is
to tear down all your traditions. All of society is bad. You can't trust any of it. So just withdraw from all of it. That's a form of deconstruction, right? And the idea that it's become very popular to say you can't really know what's real. You can't. It's all a big
simulation.
Game. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, where it's become more common in just what we call normies, right? For people to be saying that I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything anymore. Kind of almost a nihilistic approach. That's a form of deconstruction. That's something that's the result of decades of social engineering that's happened on our nation. That demoralization and destabilization, crisis and normalization pattern that goes over and over. It operates on the macro, and it also operates on the micro. Those patterns going over and over and over of being demoralized, being separated from God, being separated from what's true, good, and beautiful, and then you feel destabilized. Your community or your nation feels destabilized. We're going through those cycles all the time, it seems like. And so we want to come back to you soon when the time is right and talk to you about this, because this is going to be a little bit more of a philosophy and theology show where we're going to try to help you understand how should I engage the world right now? What should I even do? How do I discern what's happening? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, trying to understand like the biblical worldview as it comes against the dark enlightenment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because there is certainly,
you know what I mean?
There's certainly like a false light movement and a dark
it's
enlightenment.
the externalization of the hierarchy. So that was supposed to be in full force in 2025. Yeah. And indeed, you see that. I mean, you can see that all around us right now.
Yeah.
So, how do we navigate with this new sort of with the idea in mind that people are truly taken in by a completely different way of taking in information and viewing the world just from ground zero, and that's very much because of the things that they have done with Common Core curriculum and in our institutions and universities, the long march through the institutions and generations steeped in the thought that comes from Rousseau and Marx.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole idea of being, if we first heard it, in the truth movement, 2011, 2012, really it's about 2012. It wasn't until 2015 when on YouTube, people, a lot of YouTube videos. Bloggers were big before that, but YouTube videos started happening around about 2013, 14, 15, around that era. That's when you started hearing people say, they're awake. They're waking up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all said that. We've all been, probably a part of that. We've said that we use that terminology. Well, why did we use that term? I mean, why did we think we woke up? Because we suddenly understood how governments work, and suddenly we understand evil's in the world. I mean, the Bible's been saying that all along. I mean, it's not a new idea, but we're convinced to think that now somehow, we can see the hidden knowledge. We understand the secret knowledge, and that's been the truth movement pretty much the whole time. Is this idea of a new enlightenment, but it's unrestrained, and it goes all over the place, and it goes off the wells. Then awake became woke, and then it became this leftist thing. And so we just want to talk to you about that a little bit, and just give you some solid ground to stand on as we watch this world around us seemingly going crazy. We don't have to. We can sit here comfortable and standing firm because we know the truth, and we know how to discern the truth in the midst of all this seeming chaos. Well, I think that's all for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for
that's a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for all your input here today, Sam. I appreciate your collaboration on this. In fact, this was Summer's article. The other idea, the idea of the Matrix and the Gnosticism was something that I was working on, but this became more important today. This was way more relevant, and so I appreciate your work on that and the fact that we were able to get that out quickly and even talk about that today. So I appreciate your hard work, and thanks to you guys out there who are watching us, the loyal viewers that we have. The we might have probably about 300. I think we've got about 300 really loyal viewers out there. So we really appreciate you. And we just want to let you know, because we don't really need more than that. We really don't. You don't need, if you can serve 300 to 500 people really well on YouTube, I think you're doing a good job. I think think of a church. Think of a church that has 500 people in it. That's a lot. That's quite a lot.
Yeah,
of people,
I mean that is a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's bigger than our church. But all right, I'm rambling on now. So God bless you, my friends. We'll see you again here very soon.
Thank you, guys. God bless you. See you.